Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday, July 19th, 2026 Righty Reading class. Hope you had a good week. Let's go ahead and get started. Just give me a one in the chat room to let me know you can hear me okay. Perfect. Today, we'll start off with our quote and some expansion on that. We'll get into a reading with a quiz, some vocabulary. We'll talk about some theories for good writing and introduce a new book. Let's start with the quote. Ethan, can you read the quote over on the left?
We don't want to live in a trash can. Stop making it one.
Excellent. What do you think this quote is discussing? Raise your hand if you have an idea. Consider the image that you see. What is this referring to? Ken, do you have an idea?
You don't want to live in trash can, yeah. In and people are making landfills and starting plastic pollutions, so it's actually kind of turning the earth into a trash can.
Exactly. This is all about the amount of trash. This quote has to do with about the amount of trash that we as humans produce. And in fact, what we are going to be discussing today has to do with landfills. Follow along as I read about our text. The US population produced more than 236 million tons of garbage in 2003, about 4.5 pounds of waste per person per day, according to the US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. All of this waste gets put into landfills, which are decreasing the numbers from 8,000 in 1988 to 1,767 in 2002, but gaining in size. When a landfill is full, it gets capped and usually planted with grass. The end results looking like a large grassy hill with small chimneys to release gases. A closed landfill does not look particularly threatening, but evidence is pouring in that there's more going on than meets the eye. Landfills produce significant amounts of methane gas, along with leachant and toxic liquid that comes out of all the compressed trash. Landfills often have pipes designed to route and collect leachant to keep it from contaminating groundwater, which can become your tap water. However, even the best collection systems and landfill liners inevitably deteriorate and leak, according to the EPA. Studies have shown possible increased risks of certain types of cancer, including bladder, brain, and leukemia, among people who live near landfills. Further, a study by researchers at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine also found that babies born to mothers who live near landfills have a greater risk of birth defects. Children living near waste sites also had increased rates of hospitalization for asthma. Carpenter said the extent to which toxic landfills contaminants suppress the immune system has been underestimated. Now, let's answer some questions based on the text. Number one, what are some of the dangers of landfills? Number two, why are landfills more dangerous for children? And then finally, are landfills necessary? Why or why not? I'm going to go ahead and copy all three questions over to the chat room right now so that you can refer to them. And then I'll go back to the reading so that you can find the answers. Once you've found all three answers, go ahead and raise your hand, or we'll begin discussing once the time is up. Take a moment now and find the answers to the following three questions. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can answer some of the questions from the text. Let's begin with you. Can you explain What are the dangers of landfills?
Um, it will create lots of like bad gas.
Okay. So dangerous gases.
Yes.
And what happens with those gases?
And um hmm, it will let people to get more disease.
Mm, okay. Anything specific that they mention? What specific diseases? What specific diseases, Alice?
Like um asthma,
Asthma? Okay, asthma.
asthma and uh the L word, and I don't know how to read that.
Leukemia. Leukemia.
Yes.
What are some other dangers of landfills? Ken? What are some other things they mention are dangerous about landfills?
Uh, it says when a baby is born near a landfill, their brain might have some problem.
Okay, it can cause some birth defects. Yes, it can cause some birth
Yes,
defects. And how does
and
and why does that happen? What causes that?
the toxic gas it releases.
Okay, maybe not necessarily the toxic gases, but there's something else that was released.
Mm, uh, mm,
There was something else that they mentioned that was released from landfills that could end up in a specific place. Do you want some help?
yeah.
Ethan, do you recall they said that something else leaks that comes from landfills?
You mean for children?
Not necessarily for children, but just in general, we're talking about number one, the dangers of landfills. We already mentioned toxic gases. Do you remember the sec?
Like I think it's children. Like I think children will have a kind of um sickness that they can't breathe air very good.
Yeah, so we talked about asthma. We also talked about birth defects. Everyone, take a look at your second paragraph. What do they also talk about is a danger? Ken?
Leachate
Leachate. And what
and
happens with leachate?
mm, it says something toxic liquid.
Uh-huh. And where does it go?
It goes. It comes out from the landfills.
And where does it go?
It's
Does anyone recall where does it go when it releases? When it leaks? Where does it go? So they mentioned that it goes into groundwater, which the groundwater can eventually become tap water, so water that people drink. So the water can become polluted because of the leachant toxins that are released from the landfills, which in turn will oftentimes, as they mentioned, cause problems with birth defects, because if mothers are drinking that water, that can cause birth defects in children. Which leads us into our second question, the dangers for children. We mentioned things like asthma because of toxic gases and also birth defects. Now, thinking about everything that we've learned about landfills, but also the fact that we as humans produce garbage, do you feel that landfills are necessary? Why or why not? Ken, let's start with you.
Okay, I think landfills are actually a little bit necessary.
Explain.
Because, okay, imagine this. People have a lot of trash. We have it everywhere and we throw it in trash cans and there's nowhere to dump it. So we just dump it in the forests. And we just keep dumping and dumping and dumping. The forest will be polluted and it just breaks. It at least takes like 100 years to break down like some plastic. For plastic to decompose, it at least needs like 100 years. So the plastic will just keep expanding and turn it itself bigger and bigger and pollutes a lot of places. And at the end, there's no more space to throw the rubbish. So you just let it be in the trash cans. And we just keep putting things in the trash can and keep having more trash everywhere and everywhere. And the world will be full of trash in that scenario.
So, and that's why we need landfills.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Alice, what are your thoughts? Thank you, Ken.
I think it is necessary because like some of the trash we can recycle it and like such as plastic, and we can reuse it and to for other things, but not all of the trash can turn into other things. So um so we don't have place for those trash, so people just put it in the ground.
Okay. And so for that reason, we need landfills.
Yes.
Okay. Ethan, what are your thoughts? Thank you, Alice.
Like I think landfills are necessary because like if we don't have them, like at least we can use these to recycle those garbage. But like if we don't like for example plastics, we need to like burn them and that will actually pollute a lot more.
Okay, so it's the best solution, you're saying, of what we have available.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. Well done, everyone. Now let's take a look at some of the words that we discussed, or we saw in the writing. Capped, meets the eye, an idiom expression, deteriorate, leukemia, and asthma. What I'd like for you to do is take two of the vocabulary words and create a sentence around it. Think about the part of speech of the word, capped being a verb, meets the eye, an expression, deteriorate, and verb, leukemia, a noun, and asthma, a noun. Once you have your sentence, you can submit it to me privately in the chat room, and then we'll take a moment to discuss the sentences to make sure the meaning works. Okay, we're going to take a look at the sentences coming in. If you want to submit, just go ahead and start to wrap up. Let's see. Ken, you wrote, there once was a king. He had leukemia decease, the doctors tried to cure him, but it just became deteriorate. Okay. All right, let's talk about some of your phrases here. Now you've got, in your case, the first two phrases are actually independent clauses. So if we want to combine them, we have to use a coordinating conjunction. Or we can make them two sentences. Which one do you think would be the best thing for here? Should we combine? Yep, we could do that. And he had a leukemia disease. Now, what we can refer to leukemia, we know it is a disease. You could just say leukemia disease if you wanted to, but here's the spelling of disease.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. This is what it's all about, just learning. And then in the second sentence, you said the doctor tried to cure him, but very good here, combining the sentence, it just became deteriorate. Now, let me show you how you can use deteriorate. The deteriorate is in this case is an can be a verb, but the way you're going to use it as an adjective. Oh, you're trying to use it as an adjective. Let's create it as a verb, but it deteriorated. We can make it past tense since your story is in past. Or we could say to keep it as its form, but it continued to deteriorate. And we could say specifically what is causing the deterioration. It continues to deteriorate his body. And now we are able to use deteriorate in the same form by saying continued in the past tense. Good. All right, let's take a look at Ethan's. Okay, Ethan, you wrote, his asthma deteriorated because of his weak body. Let's see. So the asthma wouldn't deteriorate. His body could deteriorate. So maybe we could say, let's try to rephrase this so it works. His body started to deteriorate and caused him to have asthma. So asthma could be the result of a body that was deteriorating, but the asthma itself wouldn't deteriorate. Now, it might deteriorate if his body is getting stronger because now he doesn't have asthma, but deteriorate means to become weak, to break apart, to dissolve. But I don't think that's quite the message that you wanted to say. So this way makes more sense of what was deteriorating, which was his body, and that caused him to have asthma. Okay, let's take a look at Alice's. Alice, you wrote her mom had a leukemia and her health became deteriorate. Okay, close. Her mom had leukemia. We would just say it without the A. And her health, maybe we could say, started to deteriorate. I used started in Ethan, so let me see if I can create another one. I use continued in Ken's. Here's another way you could say started. Began to deteriorate. It would be a phrasing that you could use. So different ways of saying it: continued to, started to, began to.
老师警报！
I'm sorry?
老师警报！
I don't understand.
Oh no, sorry.
Okay. All right, very good, everyone. Now, let's take a look at these sentences. If he sees you, he says hello. If he sees you, he will say hello. If he saw you, he would say hello. What is the difference in the meaning of these sentences? Who can explain? If he sees you, he says hello. If he sees you, he will say hello. If he saw you, he would say hello. Who can explain the difference in the meaning? Ethan, any idea?
Like maybe one is you think so, and one is you don't think so, and one is and one I don't know.
Which one, can you explain which ones you think are what?
Like I think the first one is you think that like when he sees you, he will say that.
Okay, not quite. Ken?
Teacher, I think on the second sentence, you put the comma the wrong place.
Yes. What about the meaning?
Oh, I think if he sees you, he says hello. Is he could. And if he sees you, he will say hello. Is he will. He definitely will. And if he saw you, he would say hello. It's not likely.
Okay, let's talk a little bit. Some of what you said is correct. So in the very first sentence, what we're stating, because we're using present simple in both the condition and the result or the outcome, we're saying that this is a fact. This condition is a fact. It always happens this way. Now, this is known as the zero conditional. In the second sentence, we're saying, because we use present simple during the if part of the statement, the condition, and then we say future will during the result or the outcome, this is saying that this is likely to happen. And this is what's known as the first conditional. The last one is past tense during the if part of the statement, and then would plus the verb bare infinitive in the result or outcome. And this is saying that it's something that we do not think is likely to happen. So it is unlikely to happen. And this is what's known as the second conditional. Now, these are the three of 4 conditionals that we have in English. The basic 4 conditionals. We're going to be spending a little bit of time talking about conditionals in various formats that we see over the next few lessons. But we have to start first with the basics. The 0 being always a fact, present simple plus present simple. The first being present simple during the if part, and then the future will or won't, plus the verb, bare infinitive, to discuss something that's possible. Or the second conditional, which is past simple, and then would plus the bare infinitive. Now, something to note in the second conditional is the use of the verb be, the be verb. We know the past tense of the be verb to be was or were. However, if we use the be verb in the second conditional, it is always were. It does not matter if it is I, you, he, she, they, we. Every single time it's were. We never use was in the second conditional when we have to use past tense. The be verb is always were. If I were, if you were, if he were, if she were, if we were, if they were, if John were, if the dog were, it's always were, never was with the second conditional. Now, we're going to try an exercise to see if you can tell, is the statement a fact or a habit, like in the 0 conditional? Is it something that is expressing something likely to happen, the first conditional, or if it's the second conditional? We're expressing something that's not likely to happen. Let's take a look at number 1. It says, if I with the verb see John, I with the verb tell him your news tomorrow. What is the correct response for this statement? 0, first, or second? Raise your hand if you have an idea. Alice, what do you think here?
Mm, if I see John, I will tell.
We'll tell him your news?
Yes.
That is correct. This is talking about something that is likely to happen. We're not saying it's a fact. We're also not saying that it's not likely to happen. So we use present simple during the if part of the statement and future will. If I see John, I will tell him your news tomorrow. Ethan, take a look at number 2. What do you think is the correct answer here?
Meg sleeps only 5 hours a day. If she sleeps longer, her health improves fast.
So you're stating this is as a fact. But the problem is that we know the habit of Meg. We know that Meg's habit is that she only sleeps 5 hours a day. So is it likely that she's going to change her habit?
No.
Okay, so we are dealing with an unlikely scenario, which is the second conditional, where you're using past tense with the if part of the statement, and then would plus the verb bare infinitive. What would that be?
If she slept longer, her health would have improved
Not
fast.
not would have, just would improve. Would plus the bare
Okay.
infinitive. Yeah, because we know that it's unlikely based on the first scenario, or based on the first sentence. Ken, take a look at number 3.
If you freeze water, it turns to ice.
Excellent. This is a fact. This is a truth, which is the zero conditional, present simple all the way through. Very good. Let's do another round. Alice, take a look at number 4.
If you need help with your car,
Number 4.
if she wants, wait. If she wanted to talk to me, she would rain up.
Very good. We know because she doesn't that this is unlikely to happen. So second conditional is correct. Ethan, number 5.
If you need help with your car tomorrow, my father.
Oop, I think your mic cut out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
If you need help with your car tomorrow, my father will help you.
Very good. Yes, this is a likely scenario. It's like first conditional. And then Ken, how about number 6?
We will have a picnic if the day will be fine.
Now you said we will have a picnic, which was correct. Because if you notice, the if part of the statement is in the second half of the phrase. So the result is will, but the first half of the phrase is just present simple. The part that is with if is always present simple. What is the present simple of the be verb?
We should.
No, your first part is correct. We will have a picnic. But with the if part of the statement, which is in the second half this time, is correct. We will have a picnic if the day is fine. Now, everyone notice in number 6 how we change the order. Sometimes what we do is we put the result first, and then we put the if statement. If you do this, whatever verb tense is with the if must always stay with the if, which is why we have in the beginning, we will have a picnic, because that's the result part of the first conditional. And the part that is always with if is present simple. So even if we reverse the order, we must maintain the correct tense with if. Now, what I'd like for you to do is see if you can create 3 different sentences. So the sentences don't relate to each other, but 3 different sentences, one with the zero conditional, which is a truth, the first conditional, which is something that's likely to happen, and the second conditional, which is something that is unlikely to happen. Once you have all 3 sentences, go ahead and submit it private to me in the chat room, and then we'll take a look to make sure the structure and meanings are correct. Okay, let's take a look at the sentences coming in. If you want to submit, just go ahead and start to wrap up before we move on. Let's see, Ken, let's take a look at yours. You wrote, if you put water under the sun for a day, it turns to steam. Okay, we can say that this is a fact. let's say that we need certain conditions
Sorry,
for
I
this
missed.
for this to happen. For example, it needs to be it can't be a cold day.
Just
So
put under
why don't we
sun.
say why don't we just kind of clarify
Under.
um under the sun on a hot day. It turns into steam. So that would make it more of a fact. If you need help on taking care of your brother, call me. So we can't say if you added and, but we're kind of losing the structure. Call me and I'll help. That would be okay because we need to have the will in there. So you just added an imperative sentence along with it. But as long as we have the will, then it'll be okay. If you don't finish this meal on time, so the problem here is that you're using future will. I'm sorry, you're using present tense. We need to use past tense. Try working on your second conditional phrase again. Now remember, you have to use past tense because you're talking about something that's unlikely to happen during the if part of the statement. And then you would use would plus the bare infinitive during the result part of the statement. Try that one again. Ethan, let's take a look at yours. You said, if you hit him for no reason, he will be angry. Okay, now this is first conditional, not zero conditional. Did you mean for this to be first conditional or zero conditional?
0.
Okay, so zero conditional would have to be a fact, which means that we're using present simple on both sides. Let me show you how you could make that work. If you hit him for no reason, he always gets upset. So now what we're talking about is a habit for someone. And now, because I said always, I talked about a frequency of something. It's a frequency of someone's habit. Now I can put that in present simple.
Okay.
Let's look at your second one. When you meet him, he will say hello. Now remember, in a conditional, one phrase that you always have to use is if. When is actually a subordinating conjunction and does not produce a conditional statement. We need if in order to make a conditional statement. If you meet him, he will say hello. That works now and is a conditional statement. But the if is required. I also added a comma right after say. And your final one, if she exercises, she would be healthier. Now, your first part of this for the second conditional is past simple. You use the second part right, would plus the verb bare infinitive, but we need to change your second conditional to exercised. Now, what we're understanding in this statement, if she exercised, is that her habit is not to exercise. So what you're expressing is not likely to happen. We would know that if we add a phrase like this. However, she hates working out. Now I understand why you use the second conditional, because you're saying that this is unlikely to happen because it's not her habit. All right. Let's take a look at Alice, what you wrote. Alice, you wrote, if you go to the museum tomorrow, our teacher will be there and be our guide. Now, you're using will. Did you mean for this one to be zero conditional or first conditional?
Zero.
Okay, zero conditional has to be a fact. If you go to the museum, let me rephrase this so that we can make this a fact. There is always a guide to assist you. Now we're saying that this is a fact. This is a situation that always occurs. And we use present simple, not future will. Future will is for the first conditional, saying that something is likely to happen. Let's look at your second one. If he worked more, he would have lots of money now. So this is your second conditional because you're using past tense. We're saying that this is not likely to happen because maybe yet he hates to work. He hates to work. We know that this is not his habit. In the last one, when you are late to school, once again, we cannot use when. That is creating a subordinating conjunction, not a conditional. Let's use if. If you are late to school, your teacher will let you stand in the back of the. Let, I don't think let is the correct word. We could say will make. So now it's a it's a, you're forced to do it, but let is like it's an option. Your teacher will make you stand in the back of your classroom. Now that's your first conditional. Let's see, Ken, you wrote one other one in. You said it would be a disaster if there was. Yes, this is an example of the second conditional. I'm just going to get rid of the second part of it. You could say, and if you wanted to, and it would be a disaster if there was an earthquake, and your flight would be canceled. Would be canceled. Because we use would. You could say could if you're talking about it's a possibility, but it wouldn't be could have. Could have is a different conditional that we'll talk about next week. But would is our basic structure form. And then would plus the bare infinitive. All right, everyone. We have a new book for this week. That is Cassidy Jones and the Secret Formula. This is by Elsa Stokes. Here's a little bit about the author and also a summary of the book. This week, think about our new vocabulary and also the meaning and usage of the 0 through second conditionals. This week, I also want you to think about what is your favorite thing in nature and why. Describe it in detail. Write no more than 400 words. You can submit that to the form within the next 7 days for edits. On the page afterwards, you'll find the sentences to complete with the words of the day, along with the answer key to check your answer. I'm going to go ahead and copy the link to today's class in the chat room. If you'd like to get started, just go ahead and click on the link and request access. But any questions as we wrap up for today? All right, then I will see you all next week. Have a good week. Bye now.
See ya and have a nice day too.
Nice week.
Have a
Hope
nice
it's
day.
good and you say.
You too. Bye.